Why does this look like a homework assignment and this a real project? HTML for both of them is same tag, same text. The only difference is CSS. And by using the CSS, you can go from flat to finished in under 10 lines. In this tutorial, we're going to build 4 completely different styles, including a beautiful headline, its subheading, its editorial data, a badge, and finally we are going to put all of that together into a beautiful card that you can show off. Stick with me and let's get started. Let's begin by designing a heading. First of all, we are going to create a single div that's going to wrap through the heading, and then we are going to create one more div which is going to help us center that heading. So let's begin. I am going to create my first div and name that one card wrap, and then create another one and name that one card. If you don't remember, we can use this syntax to create a new tag with any class. Let's revert that. Here I am going to create a heading, give that a class of heading, and inside of it I am going to write the art of. Then we need to add a new line before this defined, so I am going to use a br tag. The br tag is going to break a line here and move that defined to next line. So let's write a defined within m tag. M is for emphasis, which gives us an italic and a slightly bold font style on our text. So let's use defined and we have design. There we go. And as you can note, by using this br tag, let me go back and save. We have pushed that refine onto the next line. So let's put that back and let's proceed with designing a background. So I'm going to create an style tag here, target a card wrap, and we're going to give it a background color. And I already have most of my colors noted down, so I'm just going to use that one directly. Save, go back, we have a color. I'm going to give it a width of 100%. Let's also give it a display of flags and then add justify content center. And just remember that this is used to center elements within a tag. I'm going to explain more about that later. Let's continue with a card. And for a card, I'm going to use a trick which is max width plus margin, which is going to center a heading. So I'm going to provide a max width of 400 pixel here. Don't worry too much about all those details. We are going to work through those and clarify them when we reach the phase. For now, we are just talking about colors, background colors, typography, shadows, etc. So let's continue. We are going to define this color on a heading. This is something like white. There we go. I am also going to define a different color on our M within this heading. And this is a special style. You can view this by hovering over that. What we are doing is that we are selecting our M tag inside of this dot heading tag. And if you hover over this, you can actually see what's going to happen here. CSS is going to select any element with a class of heading and then find an M inside of that element and apply the style there. So let's proceed. I have an approximately gold color for my M here. Let's save, go back, and there we go. And in fact, we're pretty much done already. I'm just going to increase the spacing a bit. So let's go with padding 32 pixel for top and bottom and then 12 pixel for left and right. Left and right doesn't actually matter, but let's stick with that. I'm also going to increase the font size to 2.5 rem, which should make a heading a bit larger. And I believe that we're pretty close. Next, we are going to change the font style, sorry, on this heading. Hopefully you remember previous lessons because we are going to use Google Fonts once more. So let's proceed with Google Fonts, and I'm going to use a font called DM Sans, which is pretty similar to this, but I believe that first of all, it's going to give us a consistent look across all different devices, and second, well, it just looks a bit nicer. So let's continue with DM DM Sans. There we go. And I'm going to pick, wait, sorry, we are not using DM Sans for a heading. We are going to use that one for a subheading. So let's proceed to another one with a similar name, which is DM Serif. And there are two of those. We are going to use DM Serif display. You can use any font that you like. I am going to stick with this one because in my opinion, this gives us a very nice and a very luxury-like feeling. So I am going to remove this font from here. Go back to DM Serif display. We are going to click get font. All of those steps were covered in the second last video. We are going to get embed code, copy this. We don't need to copy these two. So I'm just going to copy this one, put that in a head, and next I just have to copy this. There we go. I'm going to place that within my heading, and this is going to give us a very mild difference. You might not actually end up noting it, but if I remove that, you can note that there is a slight difference. Next, I am going to give this one a font style of italic. And it doesn't make a difference here because this defined was already italic, but I am explicitly defining it so we don't have any problems due to different browsers. And we're done with our heading. I understand that I'm going very fast, but we have to be fast to cover all of this in a single video. If you're feeling stuck, drop a message in the comments or just rewatch this part, and I'm sure that you will be able to get through. Next up, we have a badge, and it might seem simple, but this is going to be much harder than a heading. So, good luck with that, I suppose. Well, I'm going to make that easy for you. Let's begin fast. First of all, I have copied all the code for a card so we can begin directly from here. Here, I am going to create a div, give that a class of badge, and I am going to specify something like editor's choice here. Nothing shows up here. We are going to go fast and use up our colors. We have our text color, which I am going to use immediately. Let's target our badge, define the color as this. Next, we are going to define a background. Wait, sorry. This is supposed to be the background. Let me change that to background color. Place this color here. In fact, let me remove the background of this card real quick so we can view our badge. Okay, so we are going to give it a text color, a slight gold-like color just like we gave to our refined emphasis. There we go. And we are going to give it a border color of this. So to add a border, I am just going to define 1 pixel, solid, and this. I don't think we have covered borders yet, so we are going to discuss them further in a different video. Next, I need to define some spacing here, so I am going to use padding 4 pixel, 4 pixel from top and bottom, and from left and right I am going to increase the padding to somewhere around 8 pixel. which is going to give us a horizontal feel. Let's reduce the font size as well to only 10 pixel. Go back, our font size has been decreased. I am going to change that to 12 pixel. There we go. And now I am going to use a new property called border radius, which is going to give us those rounded borders that we can see on that badge. So we are going to define a value here, and the higher the value, the more rounded borders we are going to get. So for example, if I define 5 pixel, we have some rounding, but if I define something like 20 pixels, this is fully rounded. I'm also going to increase its weight to give it a bit of bold style. So let's do font weight and I'm going to provide 500. And this doesn't make much difference, but that's fine for now. And now I'm going to use the font that I previously mentioned called DM Sans, and we are going to apply that on this badge. So let's do that quickly. I shall go back to Google Fonts. Here I am going to search for DM Sans. Let's search for, there we go. I'm going to click get font, and now Google is going to give us a URL that contains both of these fonts. So we don't have to remove DM display to get DM Sans. So let's add that here. I'm going to go back, and here I'm going to specify font family, and we get our DM Sans here. So let's use this one. Save, go back, and there we go. Now we're almost done, but we still have two changes remaining. First of all, I'm going to define something called letter spacing here. And if you might remember, I specified monospace fonts where every letter is evenly spaced. And by using letter spacing, we can perform that even spacing or using any font. And this is going to look nice in retrospect. Let's go with 0.12 m here. I believe it's going to work fine. Save, go back, and I think that seems nice. And another thing that we're going to perform is that I'm going to use text transform, and this is going to convert all of our code to lowercase, uppercase, and we can even choose to display it like we typed. For now, I am going to select uppercase, and this is going to automatically convert our batch to up. And finally, I am going to apply something a bit confusing, but it's also something very practical. So let's zoom in, and then I am going to specify something called text shadow. Let me perform the code, and then I am going to explain that 1 pixel, 0 pixel, and then I am going to use the color that I have picked already. And if you can note, this gives us this double text effect. And if you think this doesn't look nice, that's because we haven't zoomed out yet. And now once we zoom out, you can feel a very slight retro or bold-like feel on this text. If I remove that, let's remove that and go back. And you can note how this text gains a little bit of depth when we add this shadow. So what exactly are we doing here? Well, this 1 pixel defines the X offset. If I increase that, the text is going to go, this double text is going to go more towards right. So let's increase that to something 5 pixel, and just look at how far we put that double text to. Next up, we have this Y offset, and this defines the text vertical down or up direction. So I can do something like 10 pixel, and this is going to get out of a batch. And if I do something like minus 10 pixel, it's still going to get out but to the other side. So this is a bit complex, but we are going to get this with practice. Next we have this blur radius, and blur radius, if I define that, it's going to give our shadow a bit of this blurred effect. But we don't want any blurring here. We want a very crisp and pressed style. And lastly, we define the color of that double text. So if I use that same color here, this is going to give the same color to our text and the shadow, which we don't want. We want the shadow to be darker because obviously shadows are darker. So I do that, and now we have a very slight depth feel in that text. Next up is our hardest design. So if you like, take a break, relax, and then come back. So we are going to begin by designing a card first. So for a card, we are going to specify some code here, and I would need to define a slightly lighter color for our card. So I'm going to define a color somewhere around here. Save. Let's go back, and we cannot see a card yet, but that's fine. We're going to add some code here. I'm also going to define a border, 1 pixel solid, and I'm just going to use the same color as here. There we go. Nothing is visible yet, but it's going to be visible once we start adding some other text and code. So let's begin with a paragraph. I'm going to call that one subheading, and this is going to contain this text. You can type anything in there that you like. Next, I'm going to add a div which is going to be called divider. It's this divider that we have here. Next, we are going to add a div, and inside of that div we are going to add two more divs, and those divs are going to contain these two. So let's begin with our div. I'm going to name that one div dot editorial, and here I'm going to add my text. Let's name that one author. So for that one, I'm going to use div.author, add editorial volume 1 here, and for this one, I'm going to use div.metadata. I'm going to type 9.4, and then we are going to use another span for this one. So slash 10. There we go. Our layout is complete, but we have to start applying a CSS. So first of all, a card doesn't seem to be intense enough. So I'm going to specify a background color here. First of all, we need a background color, not color. And I'm going to use a slightly lighter color so it appears more clearly. Let's also add some margin. We need a margin of 12 pixels from top and bottom and no margin from left and right. There we go. I'm also going to provide some border radius. Let's say 12 pixel, which is going to give us this rounded feel that we can see here already. Next, we are going to design a subheading by giving it a color. I have my colors ready, so I'm just going to specify them immediately. There we go. I'm also going to use the D Sans font family here again. So let's type that by hand this time. Fontish family, DM Sans, and then we are going to just specify serif. Let's go back. There we go. Next up, we have our divider, and we haven't created a divider with CSS yet, but it's very simple. What we are going to do is that we are going to give it a background color, and since we don't have anything within our divider, but we still wanted it to take some space, we are going to specify a height of 0.5 pixel. And we also need to decrease its size. As you can see, there's a lot more space here. I am going to specify more padding on my card. We haven't specified any padding here. So I am going to specify a padding of 32 pixels from top and bottom, and then 24 pixels from left and right. And this seems better but not enough. So I'm going to swap them around, 24 pixels from top and bottom and 32 pixels from left and right. For the editorial and metadata, remember that we also have to sequence them in a line like this. So I have explained this previously, but just remember that we use flex to order stuff in a line. You don't have to understand that. Don't. I'm going to explain that later. For now, just remember that flex can specify content like this in a line. I'm going to use space between save, and there we go. It's in a line now. And let's begin by adding some padding here. In fact, I'm going to add margin instead. So margin top 12 pixel. Next, I'm going to define this author. We have a color ready. So no, we don't. I'm going to copy the color of my subheading that we have designed already. So I'm going to go around and we can find this color that's defined already. We are going to copy paste that color, and there we go. Our color is ready. I'm going to increase its font size a bit and then decrease its bolding, or increase, sorry, its weight. So it appears a bit more bolded. Just 400, we don't have to specify any weight here. We have our font weight ready, and next up I am going to define this metadata. For the metadata, it's a bit more complex since we have this larger number here and then this smaller one. We are going to group both of them together. So in order to do that, I am going to begin by targeting metadata, specify color first and foremost. I am going to use this color and then specify a font size of maybe 16 pixel. Let's go back. It's not enough, so we are going to go with something like 24 pixel. And I think 24 pixel is pretty close. So yep, that's good. And for this, I have specified a different span here that we can target. So dot metadata span. Here I am going to specify a different color, which is this, and then decrease its font size to only 10 pixels. It's too small now. We need something around 12 pixels, I guess. And there we go. Its size is almost the same, but we are going to add a font and a weight to give it the same feeling as seen here. So increase the weight to 400 and then add the font family, DM Sans, serif. If go back, and there's no difference. Have we included the DM Sans here? Yep, we have. But I guess that's fine for now. We can work further upon it. So we're pretty much done. I'm going to add some more fonts such as a font family, sans. Let's copy that one from our heading. Yep, TM serif display. Save that here. I'm also going to specify serif as a fallback. Go back, and this looks nicer. I'm also going to specify DM sans for my author. Perfect once more, and we already specified DM sans for this text over here. So now our card is 99% complete, but we still have to apply some shadows to give it the feel of depth that we can see here. And we're only going to specify those shadows onto our marks or numbers. As you can note, they don't have the same style and the feel that this one have. And the shadows here are going to be a bit more complex. So let's begin. I'm going to begin with this text shadow, and we are going to have three different shadows here. And we can add those three different shadows by first of all adding one like this. This is left, I suppose. So 1 pixel to the left, -1 means left, nothing towards right, no blurring, and we're going to use this color. Let me show you the difference after each application. So this might not look like much, We are going to add a comma here and add our next shadow, which would be towards right. So 1 pixel, 0 pixel, 0 pixel, and this is a different color that we need here. Let's add that one, save, go back, and if you might note there's a difference. Let me remove that, and there's a very clear depth that we get by combining these two shadows. And finally, we have a final shadow which is a bit towards right and down. So I'm going to do something like 1 pixel, 8 pixel, 0 pixel, and then this, and we go back, and this seems a bit too much. We don't have that much over here. I get it. This one was supposed to be the blurred one. So I am going to specify a blurring radius of 8 pixels instead, and we're done. As you can note, our text still looks nice. It has that depth feel that we have been working towards all this time, and our card is complete. And finally, combining all of those is very easy now. We are just going to copy paste all of this code. I am going to begin by copying code from this subheading. Let's add this code here, add a heading on top. We have a heading. We also need a badge before the heading, and we're done. Save. I haven't added CSS yet, so we are going to add that next. And we can just continue copy pasting. We have our badge CSS, which is a single class. Let's paste that here. Next up, we have our heading CSS, which should also be one or two classes. We can paste that here too. And then we have the entire CSS for our subheadings, which has a lot more classes. But we can just copy paste and paste that here. And there we go. And as you might note, we still have a to deal with. We need to deal with this card or this badge which is stretched all the way to right. So to fix that, I am going to go to this badge and specify display inline dash block here, which basically tells us to stop stretching, and that fixes it. Let's compare those two. Those are similar. We haven't gotten them exactly the same pattern, but those are pretty close, so I'm going to perform some quick changes to make them look even better. I'm going to remove a margin which is somewhere around a heading. I think uh, it's this one. So let's make that 0, go back. Nope, not this one. I'm going to remove that because it looks nicer without it anyway. We are going to remove this spacing. So in order to debug this space in CSS, I'm just going to use a technique. Don't worry, all those techniques are part of further lessons, and we can note this orange text here that I want to remove. So in order to remove that, I'm going to go back to this subheading, add margin just top 0. There we go. It's much finer now. We also want to remove the space below the dash and then add some above it. So we are going to follow a similar technique. I'm going to go to that heading, margin top 0, save, and it didn't work because we would also have to set padding top as 0, and it still didn't work because we are changing the wrong rule set. So I am going to change the correct one, removing we're back, and then for this badge I am going to specify some margin. So we are going to go margin, and from the top and the bottom, from the top I am going to specify a margin of 16 pixel. Right and left I don't want to specify any margin. From the bottom I am going to specify 8 pixel and 0, which looks nicer. Our card is pretty much done. And the last thing I want is to kind of center those two. So let's check those out as well. I would have to remove the margin above and below it. So margin top, and I'm going to specify something around 24 pixel, which correctly centers it. And there we go, our card is complete. You can continue tweaking it further. You can continue applying styles, text shadows, colors, fonts. But I would recommend that you stop, repeat this process 2 to 3 times, and after each time just relax, sit back, and don't worry about what you don't understand. Just try to get it right, try 2 to 3 times, follow me exactly, and you're going to reach here. I understand that this is difficult, but this is incredibly important because we are going to refine all those concepts. And once we reach the end, everything is going to click in place. And I just want you, in order to reach there, I just want you to keep practicing and stick with me. That's it, and thanks for watching.